Hi everybody, it's Georgia Rose from Zencuda, and this video is about the December astrology. I didn't do my Tuesday live this week because of the holiday, but I hope you all had a really great Thanksgiving. And I have a couple of announcements to make. First of all, the sound event that we have going on that was scheduled for this evening has been postponed till next Saturday, December 7th. The person who was supposed to come and do the event had a family emergency. And also, I have some news. I am no longer going to be doing my Tuesday lives on Facebook. I will be doing live videos sporadically and spontaneously, but I'll be doing a podcast on govsradio.com once a week from now on Thursday evenings at 6:30 to 7:30. It is called Zencuda Soul Space. So if you are looking for me live, you can call into that radio show, and I'll be there every Thursday from 6:30 to 7:30. I'm going to have guests in the studio, and we're going to do all kinds of great things. So you can find me on their Facebook page. They do broadcast it live through that. That's govsradio.com. And also on the internet at govsradio.com. And check out their lineup because we have some really great shows on that station. So I will be a new member of their lineup starting on Thursday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. weekly. So come and join me there in the soul space. So I want to get into the December astrology. I'm going to try and make this video pretty quick because I do find that, it's hard when the videos get long to get all the information. So we've got some really important things coming up in December, and December is setting the tone for 2020, and that's usually what happens astrologically. And many, many people have been reaching out asking me to do their charts, and I just want to clarify that when I do an astrology chart, it's not just an astrological reading. I'm also a psychic intuitive and a healer. So many times when I do a chart reading, it's also a psychic reading. I'm looking at what your soul's path is via the past and the future, and that's very appropriate for some of the planets going into Capricorn this month, which we'll get to in a minute. But Capricorn is an energy of tradition. Capricorn is an energy of time. And we're going to talk a lot about time in a lot of the videos and on the broadcast this month. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that. So the first thing that happens that's really a major transit in December happens on the 3rd of the month. And that's when Jupiter, the planet of expansion, benevolence, goes into Capricorn. It finally leaves Sagittarius. All of you Sagittarius or Sag rising out there who've had Jupiter in your sign for the last year have found a great deal of expansion, and hopefully that's been benevolent, because if you haven't done your karmic work, Jupiter will expand some things that are not so good. But normally Jupiter is a planet that wants to expand. It's limitless. It's full of optimism. It wants to give us great optimism about the future. And in Capricorn, it's going to act a little bit differently than it did in Sagittarius. In Sagittarius, it expanded a lot of truth, a lot of higher learning, spirituality. In Capricorn, it's going to expand things in a very restrictive way because it joins the planet Saturn. And Saturn in Capricorn, and Saturn also is a planet that rules Capricorn, kind of takes Jupiter and all this. Think of a balloon full of air that just wants to expand and expand and expand and hits the walls. Well, Saturn is those walls in Capricorn. And so that energy is going to allow Jupiter to expand and then hold it in place. So what this is going to mean is that we're going to see a lot of the order of the world, politically, financially, which Capricorn is very much a financial, traditional energy. We're going to see a lot of those things become restrictive. We're going to see a lot of those things change under the influence of Jupiter, but be held down by Saturn. So this is really a lesson in time in the future and time in the past. How can we merge and integrate those things in our lives to really be the truest and best version of ourselves? So when Jupiter goes into Capricorn, it's also met by a couple of aspects that are also going to influence it. And mostly it is the Sun actually goes into a square. Venus trines Mars, but when it does that, and when Jupiter goes into Sagittarius, we're going to have some really amazing energy of clarity. We're going to feel like we know what we want to do, and we now know how to get it. And what I would suggest is during those few days when we have that energy between December 3rd and December 8th, when Jupiter comes in and shines its light, and then Venus trines Mars, which means that the things that we love and value are now meeting Mars, a very aggressive and assertive planet. that gives us our path. It gives us our structure. Suddenly we have clear way of how to obtain those goals that we've been a little foggy about, but that energy isn't going to last. So write it down, make a schedule, do a planner, because that energy between the 3rd and the 8th is really the energy that's going to set the tone for 2020 and in the future to come. And you really want to pay attention to the downloads, the inspiration, the intuition that you're getting during those few days, those 5 days between December 3rd and December 8th. Because then on December 8th, the sun squares Neptune. And that's a dissolution of reality. That is fantasy. It's confusion. Our walls dissolve. And we suddenly start to think really not only outside the box, but more in a fantasy type way. And it may not be realistic. So make sure you go back to what you really felt and thought and wrote down, and the structures you put in place between the 3rd and the 8th, because that's really what you're going to want to use to obtain your goal and find the path to real success. During that time frame when the sun squares Neptune and starts to dissolve those walls of reality, Jupiter also squares Chiron, the planet of our wounds and the things that we brought into this world. So that's going to give us more illusion. It may also make us too optimistic and too fantastical. So you definitely want to go back to those grounded, reality-based ideas and implementations and execution of those ideas that you had in the very beginning of the month. On the 9th, Mercury also goes into Sagittarius. And that's going to, when it comes out of Scorpio, make our thoughts a little bit different. It's going to signal that we're coming on a little bit of, we're coming out of the shadow of darkness, where Mercury was, in Scorpio, our thoughts can be a little bit dark. Scorpio is a kind of a darkish sign, very soul-oriented energy. So when it comes into Mercury, when Mercury goes into Sagittarius, you're going to find that you're going to be able to communicate much more philosophically. You're going to get rid of the emotion, that watery, deep depth of emotions that Scorpio brought with Mercury. When Mercury goes into Sag, you're going to be a little bit lighter in your thoughts and more philosophical, more about higher learning. So that's a really good energy that comes in. And the fact that that's coming into play during those days when Neptune comes in and starts to make us a little fantastical and a little bit less based in reality, that's going to ground us a little bit, having Mercury in Sag. So around the 9th, 10th, 11th of the month, we're going to get some more realistic energy, but also really testing us to discern what's real and what's not, as Neptune makes us a little bit more dreamy, and Neptune is an energy that you're not sure what's the dream and what's the reality. So it's very hard to discern it. And then, of course, on the 11th of the month, we have a full moon in Gemini. And Gemini is an air sign. Gemini is a sign that it's very hard to focus and control our thoughts. Gemini brings us a lot of new thoughts. It brings us a very fleeting type of thought. When planets are in Gemini, they very much want to have information, and it's very much about connecting the dots, but you really have to struggle to focus on those dots and get the reward of connecting them. It's an energy that can come and go very swiftly. So again, write down your thoughts, journal. You're going to find that it could be a little confusing if you don't do that. The full moon in Gemini, especially opposite the Sagittarius sun, is going to bring us a million ideas, and we have to figure out which one works. So that's going to be a little bit tough to navigate. But it's also a very powerful moon, because Pluto and Venus are conjunct during this moon. And what that means is that the things we love and the transformation that's deep within them becomes very heightened. So you may see things ending to begin new things. You may see things ending to give you great deep lessons when this full moon comes in. So definitely lots of data, but we're unsure what to do with it. So when that Pluto and Venus energy come in and start giving us these deep thoughts, really, really think and drop into your heart before you act during this full moon. Because Gemini is also a planet of very swift action. If you ever know a Gemini, they're like the butterfly that flits from flower to flower. And so when the full moon hits that energy, and we've got Pluto and Venus coming together also, it's going to make you want to change things, want to act, want to do. But the messages that you're getting, especially because we're still in that Neptunian energy, may not be exactly the best course of action for you. So you really want to think about what you're doing around that full moon. But it's also going to be about adjusting what we've learned to what we already know. And so new thoughts as they come in, you want to integrate them and adjust them with the things that are really in your heart, your foundation. And that's once again why it's so important to have a foundation in your life that's truly your belief system and the things that you hang your hat on. Because when we get energy like this to come in, some people will jump and make big changes and they're not really true to what they really believe. So when that full moon comes in, you really want to drop in, meditate, go deep within the soul, the heart energy that you have, to make sure that the things you want to do are truly, truly true to yourself. All right. And so the big thing that happens this month is obviously Jupiter going into Capricorn. I'm going to do a separate video about that. It's such a huge shift in the world. When Jupiter goes into Capricorn, it will be right next to the planet Saturn at some point, and that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is usually the end of eras. Typically, it happens 3 times a century, and typically when this conjunction happens, something tremendous changes in the world. It's like a new world order, a new era of life for us personally, and also many times out in the collective. So I'm going to be doing a separate video about that. And then as we progress further into the month, we start to get all these planets in the Capricorn energy. And I pulled this chart of the moment for you. And if you look at this chart, this area here is the Capricorn, house of Capricorn. And look at all these planets that are in Capricorn, right? So when you see all these planets in Capricorn, just know that all the planets that are in Sagittarius here, these are all going to go into Capricorn too. So at one point in December, we have a stellium, which is what we call 3 or more planets in a sign. We're going to have, let's see, we're going to have Jupiter, the moon at one point. Of course, that moves very quickly. But the planets that are going to stay in Capricorn for a while are going to be Pluto, Saturn, the South Node, Jupiter, Mercury goes in there eventually. And then also we have a couple of asteroids that are going to go in there. So that's a tremendous amount of Capricorn energy. Capricorn is a patriarchal energy. It's tradition. It's heavy. It's earthbound. It is our banking systems. It is the structures you put in place to run your business. It is the tradition of time being a timekeeper, the clock, the hours, the time is past, time is future kind of concept. We all know time is timeless. Jupiter is timeless. So when Jupiter and Saturn are in the same sign, you have that struggle of the past and future. So for 2020, it sets the tone for the whole year of us struggling to integrate our future and our past. And I'm going to be doing a video about that. But just know, towards the end of the month, as we have all these planets moving into Capricorn, the energy can be a little bit heavy. It can be one where we really want to stay in the comfort zones of tradition. This holiday season, more than any, you're going to want to be in that traditional, decorate the house, make the cookies, and have the family over more than any other years before. But the theme is optimism, and the theme is an anticipation of that optimism. And we actually have a new moon that comes in on December 25th. And when that new moon comes in, it's also on an eclipse. And this sets a huge tone for 2020. So I hope you'll stay tuned to my broadcast, because we have a lot of astrological energy that's really coming in. That's going to be a turning of events. It's going to be surprises. It's going to be turning energy around and flipping it over. And it all starts around that beautiful week of Christmas. And just to give you a little history, the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction is so beautiful in the sky that's actually thought to be what was the Star of David that led the wise men to Jesus in the manger. It's said that what that really was a conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. So how beautiful is it that we get that in the sky this year? And it actually goes in the month of December. Jupiter travels into Capricorn and hits Saturn. So we're going to see that after the eclipse and that new moon on the 25th, the moon starts to conjunct Jupiter. And that's when it expands everything, your emotions, everything in your life, and starts to set another tone also for 2020. Because each planet, like I just showed you on the chart, when it starts to travel into Capricorn, is going to hit Jupiter. which means that Jupiter is actually the influence in Capricorn for every one of those planets as it transits it and crosses over it. It will enhance and expand whatever that planet is. And think about the planets that are going into Capricorn. Jupiter itself, Saturn, our lessons, our teacher, Pluto, our transformation, deep shadow, deep soul work, Mercury, our thought process, our cognitive learning. All of these planets are going to touch on the expansive Jupiter in that sign of Capricorn. So we've got tremendous tsunami of energy coming in. How to best use it? Well, the best way to use it is to remember that all things begin and end with love. And I know that sounds kind of corny, and I know it sounds cliche, but this energy, and it's going to stay with us for 2020, and the themes is going to be about time. And remember that time, it has no limits. Time is eternal. Time is constantly moving. Time is not linear. People will say, oh, I was a wise man, or I was an apostle in another life. Well, someone's an apostle right now. I align with Joan of Arc, and someone's Joan of Arc right now. Our soul is eternal. So the lifetime over lifetime that we have is eternal. Time is happening all centrically at the same time in a core of creation. That's what this energy is about. It's 0 point energy. It's the energy of creation. It's the energy of how do we actuate that in our lifetime. It's about what attracts us to our purpose. What is our purpose? And how are we going to actuate it and execute it in our life? And this energy comes in to show us that it's breakthroughs. It's when you have Pluto, Saturn conjunct a half degree apart, that is tons of events that's going to surprise you. That is world history changing. That is major things happening in our life. So if there's anything that you really know is not in alignment with you, now is the time to let it go and get rid of it and make room for these beautiful changes that want to come in. Otherwise, the changes may not be so affirmative in the beginning, and they'll be a little bit more harsh because the universe wants those things not to be in your life. So now is the time to really listen, because the energy coming in is really, really going to be intense. And I, for one, am going to enjoy it, the highs and the lows, because every choice and everything that happens creates more of me. And I love that. And it's the same for all of you. So before I close today, and I just wanted to give you a little bit about the December energy. And hi, everybody, David, Joanne, Chris, RJ, Julie, Linda, Marianne. I didn't think anybody would tune in this time of day on a Saturday, but I'm glad to see you there. And of course, we always post the video to be shown anytime you want to see it or play it back for a certain thing. What I want to say is that astrology is so important. I know most of my videos are very astrology heavy, but that's not just what I do. I try to be an inspirational being and a teacher and, a psychic medium I am, and a healer. I do Reiki work. But the astrology is just like Jupiter in Capricorn these next few months, the astrology is what leads me. It leads me forward because I've found that of all the energy in the world, the stars and the planets really set the tone for much of the cosmic energy on a collective basis, and then putting that in a personal point of view and using it to really lead my life, And it's been a tremendous inspiration for me. It's also been a tremendous teacher for me. And that's why I do a lot of it, because I think that's one way that we can all really learn. That being said, if you're going to get an astrological reading, if you are looking for something to be interpreted in your natal chart, please, you don't have to come to me if I don't resonate with you. If I do, great. PM me, find me online. I'd love to, help you evolve your soul through astrology. But please don't go to someone that you have not vetted, that you don't really know. There's a lot of people out there who do astrology kind of as a side hustle, or they do astrology because they look at videos online or read a few things. I've studied astrology for 10 years. I'm an evolutionary astrologer. I use astrology to evolve myself, my soul, and the souls of others. It's very serious. And if you go to someone that really hasn't studied all of the aspects in your chart, is just going to look at a few major things, they can really misinterpret things and give you advice that you put too much weight in and put you on a wrong path. So ultimately, always make sure that whoever you go to, whether it's a healer or an astrologer, whoever, is someone that really resonates with you, and that the things that they're telling you make sense to you and feel right. Because oftentimes people will dabble in things And I always feel it's kind of irresponsible to give messages or put forth through media. And media is so readily accessible now. You know, you click a button and you're in front of hundreds of people. We really have to be responsible about the messages that we put forth. And so everything that I talk about is my interpretation. It may not be your interpretation. And that's why it's so important to have somebody really look at your personal chart. And like I say, I never push myself on anyone. If you want to invite me in, I am more than happy that you have welcomed me, and I will do my best for you. But I never solicit or really push myself in any situation. I want to be invited. So that's just what I want to leave, because I see all of a sudden a lot of people online offering astrology readings, and it's a very in-depth study. I've studied for almost 10 years, and I still have just tipped the iceberg. So you really want to go to somebody who knows your charts and all the aspects and things, especially when we have energy like we have coming up in 2020. So I just want to, in closing, say 2020 is going to be the energy where we get breakthroughs. We start to really plan and go into the sole purpose of our life. A lot of things are going to come in, and a lot of this energy will be harsh, but a lot of it will be absolutely stunningly beautiful. So we're going to have some highs and lows. That being said, it's really 2021 when many of us will execute and actuate the things that have come to us in 2020. 2021 is a doing year. 2021 is when we get up off the couch, we finally figure out how to use the computer or the software, we finally quit the job and take the one we really want, we finally finish the course of study and are ready to be that. 2020 is the year we put it all together. And 2021 is the year we actually bust out. So I like to think of, and I've said this before on camera, I always think of life as a 3-stage process, and I'm actually writing a huge a lecture series about this that you can get online. It's called the breakdown, breakthrough, and breakout. Because usually we have a breakdown, right? Something comes in, knocks us off our pedestal, and we are trying to navigate that, and we're kind of in the dark, right? We're in the dark, we're having this night of the soul, whatever. And then we have the breakthrough. And we're like, oh my God, I know what this is. I'm healed. I know what this is now. My soul's great. And I can, really live my life and make some changes. And a lot of us stop there. But there's a third part, which is the breakout, which is everything you've learned and everything you've been through, you're supposed to tell others about so you can help them, whether that's your son, your daughter, or thousands of people. So we can't forget about the breakout. And that's my work with Zenkuda, is the breakout, helping all of you break through and break out. And so I just wanted to say that that's what these next years are about. Some of us this year, 2020, are going to have the breakdown. You will be grateful for that breakdown after a certain point. We all are. We all have a breakdown. We all have a little knock. And that's what shows us the beauty of life. So if you're in the breakdown portion, know you're coming out of that. It's for your soul, because Saturn, Jupiter, Cap, Pluto, all in Capricorn, are about the soul work. It's all about the soul work. And that's what we're coming on board with. So do the work, stay tuned. We have this beautiful soul support community. I thank you all for being part of it. Please tune in and watch me on govsradio.com on Thursday evenings between 6:30 and 7:30 for Zenkuda Soul Space. I'm really excited about that. We're going to have some amazing guests in the months and weeks to come, and great stuff, and you will love it, I hope. So I love you all, and watch for my next video, which will be all about Jupiter in Capricorn, how it affects you. Thanks so much. Have a beautiful rest of the weekend, and happy Thanksgiving. Always be grateful for the unique gifts that are inside you, and spread them out all over the world. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.